In order to understand the ending to Squid Game, you have to keep one important incident in mind that happened a few episodes earlier. Several guards were running a black market organ selling ring, taking the organs of deceased players and selling them by boat. In order to facilitate this, they were using a doctor who participated in the game. And to make sure the doctor survived, they would tell him what the upcoming games were. However, the scheme was uncovered and all of its participants were executed for giving one player an unfair advantage. This incident is vital to understanding the ending of the show. At the end of the game, player 456 receives a card asking him to meet at a penthouse where he discovers his best friend in the game, player 001, is still alive. Player 001 was supposed to have died in round 4, the marble game. It immediately becomes apparent that player 001 was, in fact, the host of the game. Player 001 explains that he and his friends were simply bored and wanted to have some fun. And so they created the game. From their perspective, there is nothing deeper to it than that. A game where hundreds of people are slaughtered was just a way to amuse themselves. It is monstrously sociopathic. As I have said elsewhere, Squid Game is about capitalism. And the show's ending is where we get the full, unmasked perspective of the capitalist class. The wealthy are just bored monsters playing with people's lives. Player 001 justifies his monstrous actions two different ways. The first is that the players could, technically, quit anytime they wanted to. This ignores that the players were specifically chosen because they actually didn't have the option to quit. Their lives were so unlivable that they almost all chose to return. They could not quit any more than we can just quit capitalism. Capitalism will justify everything from labor violations to poisoning children's toys with the concept that no one is holding a gun to people's heads. Except they actually are. Food, shelter, heat, clothes, healthcare, everything that we need just to live is tied to our ability to get money. Yes, there is, in fact, a gun to all of our heads, and in America 54% of the population is living paycheck to paycheck. Or, as a more accurate summation, 2 weeks from death. No, the players couldn't quit and neither can you. The second is that humans are just bad people. What he did is no different than what everyone else does every day. To prove this point, he makes one final bet with player 456. There is a homeless man sitting on the street in the snow, and if no one stops to help him before midnight, then player 001 wins. No one will help the homeless man because he is trash, beneath contempt. Just like the players in the game. Player 001 doesn't believe the game is any different than what everyone does all day all the time. The career with the highest proportion of psychopathy is CEO. The wealthy are, in fact, not okay. Player 001 is projecting his own, very flawed, worldview onto society at large. And then, due to his wealth and power, created a miniature world where everyone is forced to act in ways as demented as his own thought processes. But Squid Game expressly refutes his base assumptions. As the minutes count down to midnight, someone does, in fact, come over and help the homeless man. When we are not operating in a system that forces us into sociopathy, we actually are kind, generous, considerate, and altruistic. But player 001 dies before seeing this happen. He is literally incapable of seeing human decency. Remember what I said about the doctor being executed for having an unfair advantage? Squid Game explicitly tells us the rules do not apply to the wealthy. The things you and I would be killed for are not even minor inconveniences for them. Player 001 knew every single game before the games even started. He could practice. He could research. And he was never going to die in any of them. Internet sleuths have uncovered he was never targeted by the red light green light computer. The guards who brutally executed every other player were never going to kill him, not in the honeycomb game nor in the marble game. The only game that carried a risk to him was the tug of war. The game where gave his team the optimal strategy. And even if they had really started to lose, something would have happened to save him. Player 001 was engaged in grandstanding poverty tourism. Playing a lethal game, but as the only one who doesn't have to accept deadly consequences. The doctor was killed for cheating. Player 001 cheated in the exact same manner, but to a far more grand degree. But he's a wealthy elite. So instead of death, he just has his fun. And then when it is over, he gets to peacefully die in his bed, under his expensive sheets. And never has to pay for his crimes, which is again, the murder of hundreds of people. The rules do not apply to the wealthy. But hey, he's dead. The monster is dead. And that's a good thing, right? When player 456 is leaving for his flight to America, he sees the exact same man who inducted him into the game playing the same introductory game with another man. The game continues, despite the death of the game's creator. Generally speaking, social problems are painted as being the result of bad people. To fix everything, we just have to get rid of the bad people. With the bad people gone, we can live exactly as we do now, only everything will be fine. The great lie of capitalism is individualism. Yes, we should get rid of the bad people. But the bad people were the product of a system that created them and gave them the power to be bad in the first place. Getting rid of any individual bad person, while not changing the system that let them be bad, is only going to result in a new group of bad people. The game continues, despite the death of the game's creator. Player 001 was absolutely a monster, but he was simply a minor and replaceable part of a larger system. One that will continue on without him. The ending of Squid Game is about the hell we are all trapped in. We are all at the mercy of a group of bored sociopaths, ones who think the whole world is as rotten as their own diseased souls. We follow rules that they would never subject themselves to. We listen to them whine as they justify the monstrous system they created that almost exclusively benefits them. And even when they are finally gone, everything continues on exactly the same.